The Great Assembly Hall was the largest structure Kang Tae-ho had ever seen. It floated in the darkness of space, attached to the orbital station called Nexus Prime. Through the massive windows, he could see 1,000 ships from 100 different worlds. Each one carried diplomats, traders, and politicians from species that had traveled among the stars for millions of years. Humanity had been doing it for only 50. Tae-ho walked slowly through the entrance corridor. His footsteps echoed against the polished floor. Behind him walked 3 others. Park Yuna, a woman with sharp eyes and gray streaks in her black hair, had commanded warships before she became his military advisor. Lee Min-ho, quiet and watchful, ran the Human Intelligence Division, and Choi Hana, young but brilliant, handled all their communications. They were the entire human delegation. 4 people to represent 8 billion. The doors to the main chamber opened, and Tae-ho stopped breathing for a moment. The hall was enormous. Seats rose in circles toward a ceiling so high, it disappeared into shadow. Creatures of every shape filled those seats. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some floated in tanks of water or breathed through masks connected to strange machines. Over 300 species had gathered for the Summit of Stars. None of them looked at the humans. Tae-ho led his team to their seats at the very back of the chamber. The chairs were too large, built for bigger species. He sat down and felt like a child at an adult's table. Yuna leaned close. They put us next to the cleaning staff entrance. I noticed, Tae-ho said quietly. This is insulting, she whispered. We traveled 6 months for this. Tae-ho watched the other delegates. A group of tall reptilian creatures laughed loudly in the front rows. They were Thorans, known throughout the galaxy as warriors and conquerors. Near them, tanks of blue liquid held the Lyrians, an aquatic species that could read minds. Everywhere he looked, Tae-ho saw power and age and contempt. They do not see us as a threat, he said. That is their mistake. Hana touched the device in her ear. Ambassador, I am receiving updates from Earth Command. No changes. Tae-ho nodded. He carried a secret that weighed heavier than any stone. 3 weeks ago, Min-ho's people had intercepted transmissions from beyond the galactic rim. Ships from a species called the Vern had entered Council space. Colonies had stopped sending messages. Entire planets had gone silent. The Council knew. They had to know. But they did nothing. A deep sound echoed through the chamber, and everyone fell silent. At the center of the hall, a platform rose from the floor. Standing on it was a creature that looked ancient. His skin was pale gray, stretched thin over delicate bones. His eyes were large and dark. He wore robes of deep purple. This was Vorlan, High Arbiter of the Galactic Council. He had held this position for over 400 years. Welcome, Vorlan said. His voice was soft but carried to every corner of the room. We gather once more for the Summit of Stars. Let us begin. Tae-ho raised his hand. High Arbiter, I request time to address the Council. Several delegates turned to look at him. Some seemed confused, as if they had forgotten humans were even present. Vorlan's dark eyes found Tae-ho in the back row. Ambassador Kang, Vorlan said slowly. Your request is noted. However, the schedule is full. Perhaps during the next summit. This cannot wait, Tae-ho said. Whispers spread through the chamber. The Thoran representative, a massive creature named Selek, let out a rumbling laugh. The little ones are impatient, he said loudly. How amusing. Vorlan raised a thin hand. Order. Ambassador Kang, you will wait your turn. That is the way of the Council. Tae-ho wanted to argue. He wanted to stand up and shout the truth. But he had learned patience long ago. He lowered his hand and sat back. Very well, he said. The session continued. For hours, delegates argued about trade routes and shipping taxes. They discussed mining rights on distant moons. They complained about border violations that happened centuries ago. Not one word about the Vern. Not one mention of the silent colonies. Yuna's hands were tight on her knees. Min-ho's face showed no emotion, but his jaw was clenched. Hana kept checking her communication device, waiting for news they all feared. During a short break, Min-ho leaned toward Tae-ho. Ambassador, I have new intelligence. The Vern have been spotted near the Kellen system. That is only 3 jumps from human space. Tejo closed his eyes. 3 jumps. A few weeks of travel. How many ships? Unknown. Our sources could not get close enough. And the council still says nothing. They are afraid, Minho said. Fear makes people pretend problems do not exist. Tejo opened his eyes and looked at the great chamber. All these species, all this power. And they chose blindness. They chose silence. He remembered a day from long ago. He had been a child on a frontier colony near the outer rim. The sky had turned red as strange ships descended. His mother had pushed him into a hiding place and told him to stay quiet. He had heard screaming. He had smelled smoke. When the soldiers finally came, they found him alone. His family was gone. The soldiers gave their lives to hold the evacuation line so children like him could escape. Tejo had promised himself that day that he would never hide again. He would never stay silent, while others suffered. The session resumed. Vorlan spoke about concluding the summit. The schedule was complete. All items had been addressed. Hana suddenly grabbed Tejo's arm. Her face was pale. Ambassador, I just received a distress signal. The colony on Kepler 7 has gone dark. The message cut off mid-transmission. Kepler 7 was a human colony. 12,000 people. Tejo stood up. This time, he did not raise his hand. He did not ask for permission. He simply walked toward the center of the chamber. Ambassador Kang, Vorlan called out. What are you doing? Return to your seat. Tejo kept walking. Guards moved toward him. But Yuna stepped into their path. She was one woman against armored soldiers, but something in her eyes made them hesitate. Tejo reached the central platform. He looked up at Vorlan, then turned to face the entire council. Hundreds of alien eyes stared at him. His heart pounded. His hands were steady. I have something to say, Kang Tejo said, and you will listen. The silence in the great assembly hall was complete. Every creature, every delegate, every guard stood frozen. They stared at the small human who had walked uninvited to the center of their ancient chamber. Kang Tejo felt their eyes on him. Some were curious. Some were angry. Most were simply confused. Humans did not do this. Humans sat quietly in the back and waited for their betters to speak. Not today. Vorlan's thin voice cut through the silence. Ambassador Kang, you insult this council. Return to your seat immediately, or you will be removed. I will speak, Tejo said. His voice was calm but carried to every corner of the room. And when I am finished, you may remove me if you wish. But you will hear what I have to say. Selleck, the Thoran representative, rose from his seat. He was enormous, covered in dark green scales, with teeth like knives. This is ridiculous. Throw this creature out. Sit down. Yuna called from across the hall. She had not moved from her position blocking the guards. Let him speak. The Thoran laughed. A human female gives me orders? How entertaining. I am not giving you an order, Yuna said. I am giving you advice. There is a difference. Something in her tone made Selleck pause. He looked at her for a long moment, then slowly sat back down. His eyes never left her. Tejo used the moment. He pulled a small device from his pocket and pressed a button. Above his head, a holographic display appeared. It showed a map of the galaxy's outer rim. 3 weeks ago, Tejo began. Our intelligence division intercepted a series of transmissions from beyond the galactic edge. Ships of unknown origin had entered Council space. We traced their path. He pressed another button. Red dots appeared on the map. 7 of them. These are colonies that have stopped responding. 4 belong to the Krell Hive. 2 belong to the Mortith Collective. And 1. He paused. 1 was a human mining outpost. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Delegates turned to look at each other. Some checked their own communication devices. We sent probe ships to investigate, Tejo continued. They found nothing. No structures, no bodies, no wreckage. The colonies were simply gone, as if they had never existed. Vorlan's face had grown even more pale. Ambassador, these matters are being handled through proper channels. No, Tejo said sharply. They are not. I have read the council records. I know what you have discussed in your private meetings. Trade agreements, border disputes, festival planning. His voice hardened. While worlds burn, you plan festivals. You dare, Vorlon started. I dare because I must. Teho pressed another button. The display changed to show sensor readings. These are logs from our probe ships. They detected residual energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. The attacks came from a species called the Vern. Now the chamber exploded with noise. Some delegates shouted in languages Teho did not understand. Others stood and moved toward the exits. The word Vern seemed to carry weight that Teho had not expected. He raised his voice. You know this name. You have heard it before. Tell me, I am wrong. Silence fell again. No one spoke. Tell me, Teho repeated. From the Lyrian tanks. A soft voice emerged. It was Kova, the ambassador of the aquatic telepaths. We know the name, she said. Her words seemed to flow like water. The Vern have existed beyond the rim for ages. They consume. They expand. They do not negotiate. And you knew they were coming, Teho said. Kova did not answer. She did not need to. Teho turned back to face Vorlon directly. High Arbiter, how long has the Council known about the Vern threat? Vorlon's hands trembled slightly. That information is classified. How long? 47 years. The answer came from Selleck. The Thorin had risen again. But this time his face showed no amusement. My people have been fighting them on our border worlds for 47 years. We asked for help. The Council told us to be patient. Gasps echoed through the hall. Delegates turned to stare at the High Arbiter. Vorlon raised his hands. We believed the threat could be contained. We believed. You believed wrong. Teho's voice was cold now. And because of your belief, millions have died. More will die. Unless someone acts. He looked around the chamber one last time. These ancient species, these great powers, these rulers of the galaxy, they sat in their comfortable seats and waited for someone else to solve their problems. Teho was done waiting. 5 minutes ago, he said, I received a distress signal. The human colony on Kepler 7 has gone silent. 12,000 of my people, families, children, gone. He let those words hang in the air. For 50 years, humanity has tried to earn a place in this council. We have followed your rules. We have respected your traditions. We have asked for nothing but the chance to be heard. His voice grew stronger. Today, I am not asking anymore. Today, I am telling you what humanity will do. He straightened his back and spoke words that would echo across the galaxy. On behalf of the United Terran Federation, I hereby declare a state of war against the Vern Dominion. The chamber erupted. Screams, shouts, and strange alien sounds filled the air. Delegates knocked over chairs. Guards drew weapons. Vorlon stumbled backward on his platform. Teho stood still in the chaos. His voice rose above the noise. We do not ask for your approval. We do not require your assistance. Humanity will fight this war alone if we must. But understand this. He pointed at Vorlon, at Selleck, at every delegate in the hall. The Vern will not stop at the outer rim. They will come for all of you. Today it is human colonies that burn. Tomorrow it will be yours. You can hide behind your rules and your traditions. But death does not respect tradition. Yuna had made her way to his side. Minho and Hana followed. The 4 humans stood together at the center of the most powerful gathering in the galaxy. We are leaving now, Teho said. Our fleet is mobilizing as I speak. In 3 days, we will engage the enemy. He turned and began to walk toward the exit. Wait, a voice called. Teho looked back. It was Selleck. The Thorin's eyes were strange now. The mockery was gone. You are either very brave, Selleck said slowly, or very foolish. Teho met his gaze. Perhaps both. Does it matter? Selleck was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. I suppose it does not. Teho walked out of the great assembly hall. Behind him, the galaxy's greatest powers sat in stunned silence. The war had begun. The corridor outside the great assembly hall was empty. Teho walked quickly, his footsteps echoing against the cold floor. His heart was racing, but he kept his face calm. Leaders did not show fear. Yuna caught up to him. That was either the bravest thing I have ever seen, or the most stupid. Probably both, Taeho admitted. Minho and Hana followed close behind. Hana was speaking rapidly into her communication device, sending updates to Earth Command. Minho watched the shadows, always expecting trouble. Ambassador, Hana said. Earth Command confirms the fleet is ready. 47 ships. Admiral Cho is awaiting your orders. 47 ships. Against an enemy that had destroyed entire worlds without leaving traces. Taeho knew the numbers were bad. He also knew that waiting would only make them worse. Tell the Admiral to begin departure preparations. We leave for the Outer Rim in 12 hours. They reached the human delegation quarters. The rooms were small and simple, nothing like the grand suites given to important species. Taeho did not mind. He had slept in worse places. He had barely sat down when the door chimed. Minho's hand went to his weapon. Who is it? Taeho called. Vorlon, came the soft reply. I wish to speak with you. Alone. Yuna shook her head firmly. No. You do not meet him alone. He is an old creature who can barely walk, Taeho said. I think I will survive. The old ones are often the most dangerous. Taeho smiled slightly. Then wait outside the door. If I scream, you have permission to break it down. He opened the door. Vorlon stood in the corridor, looking even more fragile than he had in the assembly hall. His purple robes hung loose on his thin frame. His dark eyes carried something that might have been shame. Come in, Taeho said. Vorlon entered slowly. He looked around the simple room with an expression Taeho could not read. Your quarters are inadequate, Vorlon said. We are used to it. The High Arbiter stood in silence for a moment. Then he spoke, and his voice was different now. Smaller, more honest. I did not come to threaten you or demand an apology. I came to explain. Taeho gestured to a chair. Then explain. Vorlon sat down carefully. His bones seemed to creak with the movement. 47 years ago, our long-range sensors detected movement beyond the galactic rim. Ships unlike anything we had seen. We sent probes. None returned. We sent scout vessels. They found ruins. He paused, his hands folded in his lap. The Vern had been out there for millennia. We learned. They waited. They grew. And then they began to move inward. Slowly at first, taking worlds that no one would miss. And you did nothing, Taeho said. We debated. Vorlon's voice was bitter. We formed committees. We commissioned studies. We argued about the proper response. And while we argued, the Vern kept coming. He looked up at Taeho with those ancient eyes. Do you know why the council really stayed silent? It was not stupidity. It was fear. We believed that if we ignored the threat, it might pass us by. If we did not provoke the Vern, they might be satisfied with the outer colonies. You sacrificed the weak to protect yourselves. Yes. Vorlon did not try to deny it. And now, I see that we were fools. The Vern do not stop. They do not make treaties. They consume until nothing remains. Taeho felt anger rising in his chest, but he pushed it down. Anger would not help him now. Why are you telling me this? Vorlon stood up slowly. Because you did what we could not. You spoke the truth. You declared war against an enemy that terrifies us all. And now? He hesitated. Now others may follow. Others. The Thorns have been fighting alone for decades. They are proud. They will not ask for help. But if help is offered, they may accept. Taeho thought of Selik, the mocking warrior who had laughed at humanity. The same warrior who had revealed the Council's secret. And the Lyrians? They see patterns in time that we cannot understand. Kova believes humanity is important. She did not say why. Vorlon walked to the door, then stopped. I am resigning as High Arbiter. I do not deserve the position. But before I go, I want you to know something. He turned to face Taeho one last time. I am sorry, for what it is worth. I am sorry. The door closed behind him. Taeho sat alone for a long moment. Then he called the others back inside. What did he want? Yuna asked immediately. To confess. Taeho told them what Vorlon had said. When he finished, Minho nodded slowly. This matches our intelligence. The Council has known for years. They chose appeasement. And now they are scared, Hana added. The declaration has shaken them. Yuna crossed her arms. Scared is good. Scared might make them act. The door chimed again. This time Minho answered it. Selik stood in the corridor. The Thorin warrior looked different now. His mocking smile was gone. In its place was something harder and more honest. May I enter? Teho nodded. Selik walked in. The room suddenly felt much smaller. You have courage, Selik said. Foolish courage, perhaps. But courage? Did you come to insult me? Teho asked. No. Selik's voice was quiet. I came to offer alliance. The words hung in the air. Yuna's eyes went wide. Minho's hand moved away from his weapon. My people have lost thousands to the Vern, Selik continued. We have begged the council for help. They gave us nothing but empty words. But you. He looked at Teho with something like respect. You stood before them all and spoke truth. The Thorin Empire would fight beside humanity. We would fight beside anyone who fights the Vern. Your species is small and weak. Your ships are primitive. Your soldiers are soft. A hint of the old smile returned. But you have fire, and fire is what we need. Before Teho could respond, another figure appeared in the doorway. It was Kova, floating in a portable water sphere. Her blue form shimmered in the light. The Lyrians also wish to speak, she said. Her voice was like music. We have seen possibilities. Futures that branch like rivers. In many of them, this war destroys everything. But in some, she paused. In some, humanity leads the galaxy to survival. Why us? Teho asked. We are the youngest species here. Kova's large eyes studied him. Perhaps that is why. You do not carry the weight of old fears. You see what must be done. And you act. Teho looked at his team. Yuna. Minho. Hana. 4 humans in a room with a warrior reptile and a telepathic fish, planning a war against an enemy from beyond the stars. He almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Instead, he stood up and faced his new allies. Then let us begin. The Terran flagship, Dauntless, was not the largest ship in the fleet. It was not the most advanced or the most heavily armed. But it was strong, reliable, and fast, and it carried humanity's hope into the darkness of space. Kang Teho stood on the observation deck, watching the stars streak past as the ship traveled at faster than light speed. Behind him, the entire human fleet followed in tight formation, 47 ships, 20,000 soldiers, everything humanity could spare. It was not enough, he knew that. But it was a start. The door opened and Yuna entered. She had changed from her diplomatic clothes into a military uniform. It suited her better. Ambassador, the fleet commanders are requesting your presence in the war room. Teho turned from the window. I told you to call me Teho when we are alone, and I told you that proper titles maintain discipline. But she smiled slightly. The Thorin battle group has joined us. 12 warships. Selik is commanding personally. He does not trust anyone else. Would you? They walked through the corridors of the Dauntless together. Crew members saluted as they passed. Many of them were young. Too young, Teho thought. But war did not care about age. The war room was filled with holographic displays showing fleet positions, enemy movements, and tactical analysis. Minho stood at one station, coordinating intelligence reports. Hana managed communications with Earth and the Allied forces. At the center of the room, a large table displayed a map of their destination. A small planet called New Busan, named after a city on Earth. The last human colony before Vern controlled space. Status report, Teho said. Minho stepped forward. New Busan is still holding. We received a transmission 6 hours ago. Their defenses are failing. But they are alive. How long can they last? 2 days. Maybe 3. The Vern have been attacking in waves. Each wave is stronger than the last. Teho studied the map. New Busan was a mining colony with a population of 15,000. It had a small defense force meant to deal with pirates. Not an alien invasion. Who is leading the defense? A young officer named Shin Do-hyun. He was a lieutenant before the attacks. Now he is the highest-ranking survivor. Teho felt a familiar weight in his chest. A young man, thrust into command, fighting to keep his people alive. He knew that feeling. Send him a message, Teho said. Tell him help is coming. Tell him to hold. A new voice entered the conversation. We are receiving a transmission from Nexus Prime. Hana put it on the main screen. Vorlon's face appeared, but he looked different. He wore simple robes now, not the grand attire of the High Arbiter. Ambassador Kang, Vorlon said. I bring news. The Galactic Council has voted to form a joint military command. Your officer, Commander Park Yuna, has been appointed as one of its strategic leaders. Yuna's eyes widened. Me? You have combat experience against unknown threats. You showed courage in the assembly hall. The Council believes you can help coordinate the Allied forces. Teho looked at Yuna. She stood straighter, her surprise turning into determination. I accept, she said. Vorlon nodded. Additional forces are being mobilized. The Krell Hive is sending 50 assault ships. The Mordith Collective has contributed 3 heavy carriers. Even the Pelori, my own people, are sending medical vessels. He paused. You have awakened something in the galaxy, Ambassador. Something that was sleeping for a very long time. The transmission ended. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Hannah broke the silence. We are no longer alone. The fleet traveled for 2 more days. During that time, more ships joined them. The Thoran warriors ran combat drills with human pilots. Lyrian advisors shared their insights about Vern attack patterns. Species that had never spoken to each other worked side by side. When they finally arrived at New Busan, Teho understood why the colony had held so long. The planet was a fortress of debris. Destroyed ships, both human and Vern, floated in orbit. The colony's defensive platforms were damaged but still firing. On the surface, smoke rose from a dozen impact sites, and in the middle of it all, a single broadcast tower sent out the same message on repeat. This is New Busan. We are still here. We are still fighting. Come and help us, or come and try to take us. Either way, we are not leaving. Teho smiled despite everything. Get me a channel to that tower. A moment later, a young man's face appeared on screen. Shin Do-hyun was covered in dust and blood. His uniform was torn. His eyes were exhausted, but his voice was steady. This is New Busan Defense Command. Identify yourself. Lieutenant Do-hyun. This is Ambassador Kang Teho of the United Terran Federation. We have brought the fleet. Do-hyun stared at the screen for a long moment. Then his lips trembled, and his eyes filled with tears he quickly tried to hide. Ambassador, we knew you would come. We told the people to hold on. We told them Earth would not abandon us. You did well, Lieutenant. You did very well. Now open a landing zone. We are coming down. The fleet spread out around the planet. Thoran warships took defensive positions. Lyrian vessels began scanning for enemy movements. Human transports descended toward the surface. Teho was on the first ship to land. The colony was a ruin. Buildings were collapsed. Streets were filled with wreckage. But among the destruction, people were alive. Miners had become soldiers. Families had become fighters. They had held their ground with mining lasers and homemade explosives. Do-hyun met Teho at the landing site. He saluted, his hand shaking slightly. Ambassador. I do not have words. Teho gripped the young man's shoulder. You do not need words. You need rest. Let us take over now. But before Do-hyun could respond, alarm sirens filled the air. Hana's voice came through Teho's communicator. Ambassador. We are detecting subspace distortions. Multiple contacts. The Vern are coming. Teho looked up at the sky. It was starting to darken as massive shapes emerged from nowhere. Ships that seemed wrong somehow, as if they were alive rather than built. Hundreds of them. Yuna's voice joined the channel. All ships, battle stations. This is Commander Park. The enemy is here. May our ancestors guide us. Do-hyun straightened up. Despite his exhaustion, fire returned to his eyes. Ambassador, with your permission, I would like to rejoin the fight. Teho looked at this young man who had held a world with nothing but courage and will. He understood completely. Permission granted, Lieutenant. Let us show them what humans can do. The sky filled with light as the battle began. The Battle of New Busan would be remembered for 1,000 years. On that day, the galaxy learned what happens when small creatures refuse to die. Verne ships filled the sky like a swarm of insects. They were not like normal vessels. Their hulls seemed to breathe. Their weapons glowed with strange colors. They moved in patterns that changed constantly, adapting to every attack. The Allied fleet fought back with everything they had. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Yuna commanded the tactical coordination. Her voice was calm even as explosions lit up the view screen. Thorin Group, move to Sector 7. Krell ships, protect the medical vessels. Human destroyers, form a defensive line around the planet. Selic's voice crackled through the communication channel. Commander Park, the Verne are concentrating their forces on the eastern flank. They are trying to break through. Then do not let them. A Thorin laugh answered her. I like you, human. You have fire. The battle raged for hours. Ships were destroyed on both sides. The Dauntless took heavy damage when a Verne weapon tore through its shields. Fires broke out on 3 decks. But the crew kept fighting. Minho worked without rest, intercepting Verne communications and finding weaknesses. Their command signals come from the largest vessel, he reported. If we can disable it, their coordination will fail. Tejo looked at the tactical display. The Verne command ship was massive, protected by dozens of smaller vessels. Getting close enough to attack it seemed impossible. There has to be a way, he said. Kova's voice joined the channel. Her telepathic species had been reading the patterns of the battle. The Verne are afraid, she said, surprise in her voice. They did not expect resistance. They thought this would be easy. Can we use that fear? Yes. Push harder. Make them believe they are losing. Fear makes them make mistakes. Yuna immediately changed tactics. All ships, forward assault. Show them no mercy. The Allied fleet surged forward. Thorin warships led the charge, their ancient weapons screaming through space. Human destroyers followed, firing everything they had. Krell swarm ships darted between enemies, too fast to hit. The Verne lines began to break, but then the command ship responded. A beam of terrible light shot from its core, cutting through 3 Allied vessels in a single strike. Hundreds of lives, gone in an instant. We need to take that thing down, Yuna said. Now, I have an idea. The voice was Do-hyun's. The young lieutenant had taken command of a damaged frigate called the Morning Star. I can get close. That is suicide, Tejo said. Maybe. But I have been fighting for 3 weeks, Ambassador. I have seen what the Verne do to people. I will not let them do it to anyone else. The Morning Star was already moving. Its engines were damaged, leaving a trail of fire behind it. But Do-hyun pushed it forward, straight toward the Verne command ship. Lieutenant, I order you to pull back, Yuna commanded. With respect, Commander. I am not under your chain of command. I am a colonist who picked up a gun, and I am making a choice. Tejo watched the small frigate fly into the heart of the enemy formation. Verne ships tried to stop it, but Thorin warriors covered Do-hyun's approach, sacrificing their own shields to protect him. Everyone, clear the area, Do-hyun said. His voice was steady. And tell my family I love them. The Morning Star struck the Verne command ship at full speed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then light exploded across the sky, brighter than any sun. The command ship broke apart in a storm of fire and metal. When the light faded, the Morning Star was gone. But so was the enemy command. The Verne fleet fell into chaos. Without coordination, their ships began moving randomly, crashing into each other. The Allied forces pressed their advantage. All ships, full attack, Yuna ordered. Finish this. The battle turned into a rout. Verne vessels fled or were destroyed. Within an hour, the skies above New Busan were clear. Tejo stood on the surface of the colony, watching the last enemy ships disappear into subspace. Around him, survivors were beginning to emerge from shelters. They looked up at the sky with wonder. Hana approached him. Her eyes were red. Ambassador, we found a survivor from the Morning Star. The explosion threw a section of the hull clear. Lieutenant Do-hyun. He is alive. Tejo closed his eyes. Thank you. The aftermath of the battle was both terrible and hopeful. The Allied fleet had lost 23 ships and over 4,000 soldiers. New Busan was in ruins. The Verne threat was not ended, only delayed, but something had changed. 3 weeks later, Taeho stood in the great assembly hall once more. This time, he did not sit in the back. A new seat had been created at the front of the chamber, alongside the oldest and most powerful species. Vorlon, no longer High Arbiter but still respected, walked slowly toward Taeho. The ancient creature looked at the human for a long moment. Then he did something no Pelori had ever done for an outsider. He bowed. "You have earned your place," Vorlon said. "Not through age or power, through courage." Taeho helped the old creature stand straight. "We did not do it alone. Every species that fought at New Busan shares this victory." The new High Arbiter, a Thorin named Draven, called the council to order. His voice was strong and clear. "The galaxy faces a new era. The Verne will return. There will be more battles, more sacrifice, more loss. But today, we stand united for the first time in 10,000 years, and we have humanity to thank for that." Selik rose from his seat. The warrior who had once mocked humans now looked at Taeho with something like brotherhood. "When I first saw the human delegation, I thought they were weak. Soft creatures playing at politics." He paused. "I was wrong. They are small, yes, but they have taught us all something important. Size does not determine courage. Age does not determine wisdom. Sometimes, the youngest voice speaks the loudest truth." Across the chamber, Kova's tank glowed with soft light. "The Lyrians have seen many futures. In the darkest ones, the galaxy falls to the Verne because no one was willing to stand first. But in the bright futures, a small species from a young world lights a fire that others follow." She turned her large eyes toward Taeho. "You are that fire, Ambassador." Taeho thought of Do-hyun, recovering in a hospital on New Busan. He thought of the soldiers who had died holding the line. He thought of his family, lost long ago to the first Verne attack. He had not asked to be a hero. He had only done what needed to be done. "I am just a messenger," he said quietly. "The fire belongs to all of us." The session concluded with a vote. The Galactic Council formally recognized humanity as a founding member of the new United Defense Alliance. No longer guests. No longer observers. Partners. That night, Hana sent a transmission back to Earth. It was simple and direct. "The war has begun. We have won the first battle. We have made allies of ancient enemies, and we are not alone. Humanity stands with the galaxy. Together, we will survive." On 100 worlds, the message was received. And everywhere it was heard, people looked up at the stars with new eyes. The fire had been lit. Now it would spread.